How's your meditation? Is your meditation alright? So always remember the meditation object, alright? To be aware of your mind, body, feelings, Dhamma, the five hindrances. Always maintain your equanimity and mindfulness. Equanimity means mental balance. Do not be attached to the object, neither do you reject the object. Just detach and observe. It's a very important point that you must remember. Just be detached. Just observe the phenomena, whether it is the mind or it's the body object. That is all. If you keep on observing the object, then the mind becomes more and more peaceful when there is no attachment and rejection. The mind becomes more and more peaceful. When it becomes more and more peaceful, and the mind becomes more clear. When it becomes more clear, you can see the object, the phenomena, the characteristics of the object. Once you are able to see the characteristic of the objects, then clearly, for a certain period of time, then you are getting into insight. The insight, wisdom arises in your mind. So that is the basic practice in this mindfulness meditation. That is the basic. Basic is just to sit still, whatever arises. If it's from the body though, observe the pain, observe the itchiness, observe the heat, observe the cold. Just observe it. But if it is not moving, it is stagnant, then you must move to an object that is moving. If it is stagnant, if the mind takes the object, then the mind becomes blurred, becomes inactive. You can see nothing because it is stagnant. So the mind should move on to an object that is moving. Go back to your rising and falling, or take a walking meditation, lifting, pushing down. Right? Clear? So if there's no question, we continue on to the next subject in our Noble Eightfold Path. Just as we have finished the mindfulness subject in the Samadhi, concentration, that means the meditation part of the Noble Eightfold Path. And the next one we go is the Vayama. Vayama, right effort. Vayama, right effort. Now you see that when we go into Dhammanupassana, it's a bit different from the practice that we are used to. In other words, you go deeper and you learn more than just the basic that you have gone through. For example, like the sati, the mindfulness that you practice in the four foundation. So this mindfulness is developed through the attention to the four foundation. That means you put your attention to the feeling, put your attention to the mind, to the body elements. Then you build up your mindfulness. Now that is what you practice, the basic in the four foundation. But we have gone deeper than that. I have then go deeper into that in the Dhammanupassana by noting the mindfulness in itself in four ways. Is there mindfulness in me? Is there no mindfulness in me? If there is mindfulness in me, how do I develop mindfulness? And how do I maintain mindfulness in me? Now these are the four ways. When you go into the Dhammanupassana in the 7 factors of enlightenment, instead of developing mindfulness in the 4 foundations, now you direct the attention to mindfulness itself. Is there mindfulness in me? So you ought to know what is this mindfulness and whether there is this mindfulness in you. If there is, how are you going to develop it, make it strong? Now the same way, in these viriya, this effort that you need to develop in the 7 factors of enlightenment, it is also going deeper, paying the attention to what is this effort, what is this mental energy, is there mental energy in me, or is there no mental energy in me? If there is in me, how do I maintain and develop this mental energy in me? Now it's going deeper into these factors that are important for your realization. And in the case of the Noble Eightfold Path, then there is this Vayama, the 4 great efforts. It is very, very important. If you do not understand how to develop, how to apply these 4 great efforts, then your practice is not going to progress very fast. It's not going to be deep in your meditation. So therefore, you need to really understand, even though it is theory, you must have the right understanding, even in theory, for you to practice. If you don't have the right theory, you can't practice very well. You do not know how to practice. You can be sitting there rising and falling for years after years, and you don't see much improvement in your meditation. These are important factors for realization, so you must go more deeply to understand it in various ways, to apply Dhamma Vicaya, to investigate, to see deeply into these factors, so that you know how to apply them in your practice. The 4 great effort, it is great, because if you don't use great effort, sometimes you can't go very far in your practice. So they are called the 4 great efforts. Now from the scriptures, the Buddha says, here a bhikkhu makes effort, arouses mental energy, exerts his mind to prevent unwholesome states of mind that have not yet arisen. Now that is the first great effort, to prevent unwholesome states of mind that have not yet arisen. Now why is it so? Because when it has risen, you need more effort to get rid of it. So if you prevent it from arising, as the saying goes, prevention is better than cure. Because once it arises in your mind, you are not aware of it, that it creates so much problem in your mind that you can't meditate anymore. If you are so mentally disturbed, if you are so angry, if you are so frustrated, if you are so sad, mindfulness could not arise in your mind because your mind has been overwhelmed, covered up, and you can't see daylight. Because when defilement has become very strong, it influences the moha citta, the ignorance mind, and it totally cover up, totally cover up your mind, and you can't see what is in your mind. Now there is this one of these example which is very interesting, which I like to bring it out. With regard to this one monk, one day he approached the Buddha, pay respect to the Buddha, and then he asked the Buddha this question. When we go for Pindabata, the monk says, when we go for alms round, every day we go for alms round, and sometimes there are females who are so lovely, who are so pretty, who are so kind, and the mind becomes attracted to the female, to the ladies. And after that, they could not meditate anymore. So they finish their food, they clean up, wash up, and they go to meditate. But the mind is greatly disturbed. The mind keeps on going to the pleasing object, to the pleasant objects. And so, it is so difficult to meditate. So how? What should we do? How then can we conduct ourselves towards the opposite sex? And the Buddha replied, perceive them as your daughters. Just look at them as your daughters. Then the monk said, what? If it is unable to do so, sometimes the ladies are not so young. They are equal the age of the monk. So how could I perceive them as daughters? Then the Buddha says, perceive them as sisters. Right? Again, if we can't do that, how do we conduct ourselves? The Buddha says, perceive them as your mother. And again, the mind cannot do that. The mind cannot see this young and pretty lady as a mother. Then the Buddha say, keep your eyes wide open. Be mindful at the sense door. Be mindful. Seeing as if you see not. So therefore, monks are advised to look down when they go for Pindabat and see the bowl and not the person who gives the food. Look into the bowl and see the food. Once it is enough, just close your bowl and take a bowl to a quiet place and eat mindfully. So they're not supposed to look at the one who gives the food. And sometimes the mind is so fantastic. The mind doesn't have to look at the person who gives. Just by looking at the hand is enough to cause evil to the mind. It's enough to cause so much disturbances just by looking at the lady's hand. See how fantastic is the mind? When the mind is suppressed, it is starved from defilements, then become very, very strong. Little things becomes a lot. When you don't have much, little things becomes a lot. When the mind is starved in suppression. So, the samatha meditation do a lot of suppression, whereas the mindfulness meditation does not suppress the mind so much. But even the mindfulness meditation does not suppress the mind, but the mind could be starved of sensual craving. Mind is starved. So it becomes very strong. Even though the monks don't look at the face and body of a female, just by looking at her hand, she can meditate. Yeah? So it disturbs the mind. So what to do? Needs to practice the sand base. Now that is in one of the subjects in Dhammanupassana. It is important to watch the sense base. Seeing is just seeing. Don't see unnecessary. Just see so that you don't fall down. See you don't get knocked down. Just to see so you can walk properly and know where you are going. To hear, just to know the essential thing, what is important, especially the Dhamma Talk, the instruction, to smell, to taste, just for the body to live, to have energy, to touch, so that you learn and practice awareness of body feeling. Now that prevents the arising of defilements. To prevent, that's a very basic. But it is so difficult to practice. We are not monks. We go around in daily life, we have jobs, we rush around, we buy things for the family, we buy food. How are we going to practice that? How are we going to practice that as a layman to prevent defilement that has not yet arisen? With great effort, we try to do what we can. For example, if we know that we are going to get angry, try not to get angry. Try to practice patience. Aware. Tell yourself, I'm practicing patience. Now, if you do that, it is a form of prevention. Prevent the mind from anger to arise, the frustration, the ill will to arise. That is one of the ways you could do that, to bear what is painful. Now the bearing is important so that defilement does not arise in our mind. If we contemplate, in life there's always two sides of a coin. There are pleasant objects, there are unpleasant objects. You come face to face with them all the time in your life. The moment you open your eyes, you see these objects, while you receive the present object with open arms, because they are pleasant. You receive them, but that causes attachment and clinging as well. Brings about a lot of jealousy, things that you cling on, brings a lot of fear in things you cling on, and brings along suffering whenever it is lost. The things that you treasure most, it is lost. Patience to bear the unpleasant and also to bear the pleasant. But of course it's easy to bear when it is present. You still need to bear them. You don't get too attached. You don't get too clinging. So it is this pain to go moderation. Like you say you have a nice food to eat. You have to bear. Okay, I mustn't eat so much. I just eat what is enough, or I get sick. Or I say the durian is fantastic, it tastes so nice. But you need to bear the pain of not able to eat so much. If you don't, you keep on eating, you get sore throat, you have a lot of body upset, because sometimes durian, they put a lot of those insecticides so that there will be no worms or insect attacking. If you eat a lot of that, you get sick. So you have to bear that as well. Okay, that's enough for me. One durian is enough, or two, that's the most. You need to be patiently. to bear, not to be too greedy. So that prevents a lot of defilements from arising in the mind. There are many other preventions. If we practice metta, for example, loving kindness, it prevents ill will to arise in your mind. If you don't practice loving kindness, you get angry very fast because there is no protection in your mind. Whenever there are unpleasant objects that come into contact with the senses, ill will arises because it is unpleasant. The object is unpleasant. Whenever it comes into contact with the senses, it gives rise to ill will, dissatisfaction, anger, frustration, sadness. So the effort not to allow the defilements. So there are other ways of practice. You fill up your mind with kindness, compassion, so you are having less defilements arising in your mind. Even unpleasant objects, the mind could be caring, could arise with caring and goodwill through seeing, smelling, tasting, touching. Right? So, the second one is to abandon unwholesome states of mind that has already arisen. The effort to abandon. So sometimes we need very great effort to abandon. To abandon our fear. Sometimes a lot of fear is just a state of mind. It does not happen at all. But our mind has great fear. The unwholesome one, not the wholesome one. The wholesome one is the dread. The dread of shame, the dread of consequences, resultant. That is the wholesome one. We are talking about the unwholesome one. The fear that is illogical. Fear of fear itself is illogical fear. And they constantly do arises in our mind. If we don't stop them, they could cause craziness of mind. Those fears, unfounded fears. So, need to get rid of them. Sometimes even jealousy. Sometimes a lot of sadness, loneliness. You got to get rid of them. Right? But when they become strong, the stronger they are, the more difficult to get rid of them. But you need to, because if they become strong, there is no way of enlightenment. There is no way of peace of mind and seeing things as they really are. Because when they occupy your mind, when defilements exist strongly in your mind, mindfulness and right effort and right concentration cannot find space in your mind. There is no space for them. So therefore, effort is important that you get rid of them. Dispense with them. Get rid, throw them away, discard them, do whatever you can. You need to bring out energy. You've got to tell yourself, in the Noble Eightfold Path, there is the Sama Vayama. Got to get rid of them. If you don't get rid of them, your meditations would not go far, would not go deep. You will not be able to penetrate because the mind is blurred, unclear when defilements occupies the mind, when it is strong. You get rising, falling, then anger arises, rising, falling, ill will arises, rising, falling, greed arises. So they occupies your mind and they keep on arising. So there is the development of your faculties. Your Noble Eightfold Path will be sluggish and not strong. So in the suttas, discourses, The Buddha talked of the 5 methods of expelling unwholesome thoughts. There are these 5 methods, but of course there are more. There are more, but the Buddha talked about these 5 methods to the monk. Buddha says that if these unwholesome mind arises, take roots, what do you do, O monks? Gain another wholesome object. You have to think, bring up other wholesome objects. Yeah? For example, you could consider that it is a shame as a monk who think of all unwholesome things when you already leave the household life. You are willing to leave and cut off all these loved ones and properties, and yet a monk harbors all these unwholesome thoughts. It is indeed shameful, regretful, of evil consequences and resultants. So therefore, a monk should abandon by such wise reflection. Think of something positive, something that is strong, and it overcomes the craving, the hatred, the jealousy, the fear, the loneliness, dissatisfaction, and so forth, the enemies of the mind. The whole string of mental thoughts, negative mental thoughts that disguise themselves one after another. They disguise themselves until you can't recognize them. You get rid of one, another arises in different forms, in different ways. So you have to recognize them. You have to tell yourself, I see you, I see you. Yeah, I see you. You have arises, I see you. And I'll bring out my efforts. Your strong weapon of right effort. Great effort. Bring it up, just chop it off. It is so important in mental training. The effort is so important. If there is no effort, where is mindfulness? Effort brings about strong mindfulness. And mindfulness, when they arises without effort, they die away. They pass away if you don't sustain them, if you don't maintain this energy. The rising, falling, falling. When you're sleepy, you don't take deep breath, you fall asleep. Because you don't bring in the energy in your mind. Mental energy, sama, vayama. Take deep breath, still doesn't work. I'll do walking meditation. Put in the effort, and it overcomes the disturbances in the mind, or the laziness in the mind, which is the opposite of energy. So the changing of objects, you could probably you could think of something like I mentioned just now. Instead of getting hurt, instead of shouting back, instead of getting very angry and mad, tell yourself, now is a good time to practice my mindfulness. And the Buddha say, aware of your hearing, aware of your seeing. Don't see too much, don't hear too much. Noble silence, don't talk too much. There's a time you should practice your noble silence and watch your mind. If you scream and shout and talk back, you can't see your mind. You activate your mind. You can't see them. You activate them. You follow. You let the mind follow the stream of anger, but you don't see the mind. Right? You put energy to the mind, but wrong energy. Not right energy. Not sama vayamo. Not the right energy. but wrong energy. Nijja Vayama, wrong energy. Right? You could change to rising and falling when you get angry, when you're disturbed, or when you're feeling unhappy, distracted. Go to your rising, falling, just let it stay there. Alright, for some time, and you find that you get better. The mind gets clearer, defilements get clearer. Change subject of the discussion. If you talk to somebody, the more you talk, the more he gets angry. Change subject, because when he gets angry, he makes you angry as well. Right? Remain over silence, or just go for a walk. Don't talk anymore, just dissociate from the object. It helps to calm down the mind. What happened to strong attachment? Switch object. If you can't afford to buy something, don't harbor on it, don't get disturbed, don't get annoyed, don't get angry, because now things keep going up but don't go down. Just change your object. Change your gaze. Go to other objects, see other objects. If you can't buy those things that are expensive, buy those that are cheaper. Don't keep thinking about it. It produces more attachment. When you are not able to buy, it produces more pain. Pain is a defilement in your mind. When you feel a lot of suffering, it's defilement. When you feel the pain, and you're not aware of the pain. Once you're aware of the pain, then you're practicing the Four Noble Truths. First truth of suffering. But once you're not aware of the pain, you're not dissociate from the pain. When you are attached to the pain, when you are with the pain, then it is a defilement of the mind. When you suffer, you say, oh, this is suffering, I experience so much suffering, so much pain, why must people do this to me, do that to me? That is defilement in the mind. Arises a lot of defilement. If you swallow in pain, swallow in dissatisfaction, swallow in suffering, that is defilement. But if you detach yourself and watch suffering as an object, then you are practicing the Four Noble Truths. The first Noble Truth, the nature of mind and body, that is suffering. Then you watch suffering itself as an object. There's a big difference. So you must really look into your mind and understand what is this detachment and what is this mindfulness. Otherwise, you get swallowed up into suffering without understanding, without really knowing you are detached or you are attached. When you feel the pain, that is attached. When you don't feel the pain, you are just watching the pain, then you are detached. This may be very, very technical, but this is very, very important for your meditation, to understand this mind, these mental states that arises. What is it? What actually is it? So that once you understand it, then you can apply it. If you don't understand it, how can you apply it? How can you apply these mental states? You can't apply it if you don't understand it. So you need to understand it. And in Dhammanupassana, we have to really, really go deep into these mental states that are important for your practice. Those mental states that are so essential, that are so important, and you need to recognize it. What is wholesome? What is unwholesome? What is this mental state that needs to be developed? What mental state you need to discard, to throw off, because it obstructs your way to realization, obstruct your path. Now these are obstruction. These are enemies of your mind. You need to throw it off, discard it, which you need to develop. Right mindfulness, right mental energy, right concentration. These are very important. The three factors in the Noble Eightfold Path for the purity of the mind. Only when you thoroughly understand them, then you can practice them very clearly. You can use them, develop them, maintain them for realization. If you don't, then it's become very weak. And you find your practice, you improve a little bit, you walk one step, but you do ballet 3 steps. You say you improve 1 step, but you go backward 3 steps. So you don't really understand, you do not know how to maintain, further develop. Even when you go back, you know you are going back. So how to go forward? If it is there, how to go forward? Even if it goes backward, you must know. Bring it up again and go forward. We are swimming against the tide. When the Bodhisattva gain enlightenment and he look at the world and he say, oh gosh, my Dhamma is swimming against the tide. But the world people are following the tide. And so how am I going to preach, to declare to the world this way that leads to the end of suffering? It is not possible because the world people is swept away by the tide. But the Noble Eightfold Path is against the tide. Is swimming against the flow of the tide. Because we are so used to greed, hatred and delusion. Our mind is so used to wanting all the time, craving for this and for that. Our mind is always, when we can't have what we want, is always filled with ill will. And we always have a lot of moha, ignorance. Have a lot of things that just cover up our mind. We just can't see clearly. We are so confused. Our mind is so used to that all the time, most of the time. But to practice the Noble Eightfold Path is to swim against the tide. Once you are swept down, you have to put more effort and swim up until you are stabilized. Until you can still, even you are not sweeping down, you can still maintain. In other words, maintain your practice. Don't get swept away by a greed, hatred, delusion. Note them, aware of them. Bring your mind back to rising, falling. Go back to your practice. Don't be swept away. Once you're swept away, you're gone. You lost the Noble Eightfold Path. And when can you come into contact again with the Noble Eightfold Path in your future life? Difficult. Indeed. If you miss this life, and again to come into contact in the Buddha Sasana, where there is still the Buddha Dhamma still existing. Come into contact with the four foundations of mindfulness, with the Noble Eightfold Path. Come into contact with someone, a teacher, who is able to guide you with experience. And the condition for you to practice, it is indeed, 1,000,000 to 1 chance. By such type of contemplation, it brings out our mental energy. Once we contemplate, when we become weak, when we are swept away, when we lose the path, such type of contemplation is very, very good to arouse our mental energy. Because we cannot see all these things. You say, so what? If I don't meditate now, so what? Maybe I meditate in the future life. If I don't, so what? Because we experience a lot of suffering, but do not know why, do not know what. We suffer, but we don't know why or what. Because we can't see. But if we can see, then we could really put a lot of effort effort to bring out our mindfulness, to develop concentration, so that we could realize. Once you realize, then we are free from suffering. Even if the first state of sainthood, we are saved. We have 7 more lives to go. That is the only security that we have. That is, to attain the first state of sainthood, then we are saved. We are on dry land. And the 7th birth, we will not have a difficult life. We will not have difficult life. If we fall down to the lower world, woeful world, for example, the animal world, there will be great suffering. There will be great fear in the mind. There will be great pain, mental and physical, if he's fallen to the woeful state. I've seen the National Geography, and a pack of hyenas, they attack this bull, and they managed to bite one of his legs, and he fall down, and all the pack of hyenas, wild dogs, start biting and pulling, and the bull just lay down because he was hurt. He can't run anymore. And the other pack of bull does not come to help. They just stay away and watch. And oh my gosh, you see the wild dogs tearing the bull into pieces. They bite his tail, they pull his tail, and they bite his leg. And very soon they tear out one leg, they tear out another leg, and they bite his neck, but he's still alive. And probably takes hours for him to die. What can the bull do? The bull just experience the pain. Do you think the bull get enlightenment? No way, he's a bull. He's not human. If human, we could get enlightenment. If you're a meditator and watch the pain. Because there is no way, you can't run anymore. You are in deep pain. For example, if someone, I'm not saying you, if someone who grows old and who has incurable disease and who suffers so much pain, there's no way out. And if you watch the pain as an object, the dying moment, he could gain enlightenment when he built up his mindfulness. And the dying moment, the energy becomes very strong, the pain becomes very strong. Therefore, the mind could not run away from the pain. He's stuck there, and he could see, he could penetrate into the intensity and arising, disappearing of the pain. He could gain enlightenment. So there is one way of gaining enlightenment. The dying moment, the meditator could gain enlightenment because there's no way out. Because he's built up his mindfulness, because he knows the way of practice and become useful in his dying moment. But born in the animal world, there is no way he could gain enlightenment. And what could he do? He could just experience strong pain, physical pain and mental pain. Just imagine the physical pain beaten piece by piece alive, tearing out the parts of the body piece by piece. And imagine the hatred and anger and frustration in the mind of that cow. The cow has all these things in his mind. He has citta. He has thinking, he has mental states. He has a combination of mind and mental states and contact and consciousness. He has all these things that human has, except intelligence. Doesn't have the human capacity to gain enlightenment. But he has the experience. He has the experiencing of this pain, mind and body. When I see that, it gives me a lot of energy in my mind. There's still much more to go in the fall. Great efforts. I'll continue next week.